Aaron Judge is about to earn himself a lot of money this offseason. It's no secret this dude is having a ridiculous 2022 so far, and it could not come at a better time for him. Seriously, if you have not checked out this dude's baseball reference page yet, go do it because it's actually insane. Like, right now in 2022, through 130 games, Judge has already posted a career high in WAR and home runs, and he's currently got his career high in average, slugging percentage, OPS, OPS plus, and home run percentage because he's hitting his career high fly ball percentage. Oh, and he's been an all-star this year. I mean, it's oh my god, it's so insane. And what's crazy about this really is that it's not too far off of his like career averages so far. I mean, he's always been really, really good, but he's taken this to a completely different level. And the fact that he is doing this the year before he hits free agency, that's insanely good timing. And I mean, it's not like he didn't kind of do this on purpose. I mean, the Yankees offered him a 7-year, $213.5 million extension that comes out to about 30.5 AAV, and Judge said no. Now, I don't know about you, but if somebody put a piece of paper down in front of me that said, if you sign this, you get $213 million, I'd ask them for a pen. But, I mean, apparently Judge is smarter than I am because he is about to make a lot more than that, and I'm sitting in an empty room talking to a microphone. So, what does that tell you? Now, all of this puts the Yankees in a really tough spot because after Judge turned down this extension, he set a limit himself that said, I am not talking about an extension after opening day. And once that passed, and then this dude started doing what he was doing, the Yankees could probably only think, shit. Because according to reports, Judge is seeking a contract of at least 9 years at more than $30.5 million per season, which is going to be really, really risky though, because he's had a history of missing some games, and he's going to be turning 31 already next year. And as a comparison, Anthony Rendon had signed a 7-year, $245 million deal with the Angels, entering his age 30 season. And oh god, we've already seen how bad that one's worked out. But this got me thinking because Judge isn't the only guy that's had a monster career year right before hitting free agency. It's happened quite a bit, so it got me thinking, do players kind of coast at times, and do they wait until this last year and then they decide like, all right, well now I'm gonna, all the nagging injuries, I don't care about that. All the times where I'd maybe kind of take a day off, no, it's 100% every day this year. Let's go get that bag. And so we're gonna take a look back through the 2014 free agency to see all of the guys that have earned $100 million or more in a contract in free agency. It's about 10 pitchers, 15 position players, and see kind of how does this usually play out. So strap in, grab a snack, hit the like button, subscribe if you're a fan of baseball, if you are curious about how this is going to turn out, because, oh god, this is going to be a long video. This is already such a long intro. So to make sure we have at least 10 position players and 10 pitchers, we're going to have to go all the way back to the 2014 offseason. Now, we're going to exclude the 2020 free agent class because it's not a real good judgment of their walk year when it was shortened down to 45 seasons during a pandemic. So that's why we're going to leave them out. And looking at all the numbers that these guys had put up throughout their career so far, how they did in this final season, and just the narrative that they had going into free agency, they all ended up falling into one of 6 categories. So let's take a look at how each of these categories generally played out. So the first group we're going to talk about is the guys that were really good, when they were on the field. And they kind of had the narrative of being injury prone. So teams were a little hesitant to give them big money because they didn't know if they were going to actually be able to have them play throughout most of that contract. All right, so in this group, we have Carlos Correa, Corey Seager, and Zach Wheeler. Now, Correa, up to this point, had posted a career 833 OPS and a 126 OPS plus. Correa had also earned Rookie of the Year and been an All-Star, but the main hang-up with him was between 2017 to 2019, he only averaged about 98 games per season. So the Twins gave him a 3-year, $105.3 million deal. That includes opt-outs just to be safe, and he wants to be able to still go hit free agency and get that bag when he can show that he's worth it. And so far this year, he's posted a 780 OPS, it's a 127 OPS plus, and he's had 14 home runs in 97 games. He missed a little bit of time, so it's still kind of up in the air to see how much this is going to be worth it and how much he could really go get in free agency. Now, Seager was in a pretty similar situation. He'd earned 2 All-Stars in 2016 and 17, where he averaged an 867 OPS and a 130 OPS plus with 24 home runs. And he'd missed some time, though, throughout his career that kind of painted him in this picture of being injury prone. But apparently the Rangers didn't care, and they have a lot of money to spend. So they gave Seager a 10-year, $325 million deal, which so far in 2022, he's posted a 793 OPS, a 127 OPS plus, and had 26 home runs already. So we'll see if this can continue. He hasn't missed time this year. That's at least been a really good positive for him. So there's still 9 more years on this. We'll see, I guess. And finally, we have Zach Wheeler, who, entering this last year of free agency, he'd had a career 3.7 ERA up to this point. The problem was that he missed all of 2015, all of 2016, and half of 2017 due to injury. But after being able to post a career high in innings his final season before free agency, the Phillies gave him a 5-year, $118 million deal, and I would say that's worked out so far. He's had a 2.9 ERA from 2020 to 2022 and earned an All-Star last year, so that's looking pretty good so far. I totally just jinxed that, didn't I? I'm sorry, Zach. All right, the next group that we're going to talk about is the career year guys. These are guys who hadn't maybe fully established themselves yet, and then this final year, they went off. And at the top of this list is Robbie Ray with a career 4.26 ERA entering his final year before he won the Cy Young. Now, Robbie had shown glimpses before. He had a 2.89 ERA in 2017 when he was named an All-Star, but this dude in his final year had a career high in innings, WHIP, and ERA. So Seattle signed him to a 5-year, $115 million deal to be the new ace of their rotation. And so far this year, he's posted a 3.75 ERA through 148 and 2/3 innings with 173 strikeouts. And my personal opinion, he's not the kind of pitcher that I think is truly elite. And as a Mariners fan, having to watch him, it can be kind of frustrating at times. The kind of alarming part is that as a dude who clearly figured something out last year and won the Cy Young, to see him have to change up the way that he pitches about halfway through the season because he wasn't doing that well and introduce a new sinker two-seamer, I just really hope that this contract doesn't screw things up later when Seattle is in their window. I really don't want to have this contract on the books holding us up from being able to do something. All right, okay, I got that out of my system. Now let's get back to the rest of the video. Another guy in the same boat was Kevin Gausman, who actually weirdly had the same 4.26 ERA entering his final year. and then had a 2.81 ERA, which was a career high, when he also had career highs in innings, FIP, and WHIP that earned him a 5-year, $110 million contract. And so far this year, that's worked out really, really well, because he has a 2.99 ERA through 129 and a third innings with 149 strikeouts, and went on some ungodly walk rampage or something earlier in the year where he was not letting anybody walk. I mean, come on, Kevin. These guys got to get their steps in. Be a team player. Now, Marcus Semien had already had his kind of breakout season in 2019 when he had a 892 OPS and a 139 OPS plus with 33 home runs, but he really stepped up the home runs and won a Gold Glove in 2021 when he had an 873 OPS and a 131 OPS plus, but hit 45 bombs in Toronto. And once again, the Rangers apparently had money to spend because they gave him a 7-year, $175 million deal, only for him to turn around and not do good to start the year. He had a 706 OPS and a 102 OPS plus. Now, Nick Castellanos wasn't regarded as a fielder really at all, so his value was going to come from his bat, and he had an 840 OPS, a 121 OPS plus with 24 home runs a season between 2016 to 19. But in 2021, he went off and had a career high home runs, batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS, and OPS plus, because he wanted that 5-year, $100 million contract that Philadelphia was going to give him. And unfortunately, that has not worked out so far this year, where he's had a 706 OPS with only 12 home runs and a 96 OPS plus. And now we get to finish this with a couple guys who were in trade rumors this year for the wrong reasons, because both of their teams were trying to offload these really bad contracts that they gave them. And that's Patrick Corbin and Eric Hosmer. Now, Patrick Corbin had a career 4.12 ERA entering his final year, where he posted a 3.15, which was a career high ERA, ERA plus, strikeouts, starts, FIP, WHIP, hits per 9, home runs per 9, strikeouts per 9, and Baseball Reference WAR. Eric Hosmer did much the same, going from his career 763 OPS to an 882 when he had a career high home runs, average, on base, slugging, OPS, OPS plus, and WAR to get an 8-year, $144 million contract. Now, neither this nor Patrick Corbin's 6-year, $140 million contract, realized I left that out, have worked out all that well, because Patrick Corbin posted a 3.25 ERA in 2019 when he helped the Nationals win the World Series, but since then it's been a 5.94, and his contract is widely regarded as one of, if not the worst in baseball. Now, Eric Hosmer has posted a 734 OPS for a 103 OPS plus from 2018 to 22, and he's only had more than 20 home runs in 2019. That was a lot of 20s. But for a first baseman to not have a lot of power and to not contribute offensively, this was a really, really bad contract that the Padres were so desperate to get out of. They traded him to Boston at the trade deadline this year and are still paying a significant part of that contract. And our next group is the guys that had already made such a name for themselves entering this final year that despite not having like the best year of their career, they were going to get that bag regardless. And the first guy on our list is the biggest psycho in baseball, and that's Max Scherzer, because how do you sit down across from this dude and he tells you you're going to pay him $100 million and not say, Okay. Max at this point had posted a career 3.65 ERA, and he had a career high in starts, innings, strikeouts, and home runs per 9 this year, but his 3.15 wasn't the best of his career so far. He had a 2.9 in 2013 when he was an all-star. Max got a 7-year, $210 million contract, and just during that contract alone, he had a 2.75 ERA through 1,297 and a third innings. He got 6 All-Star teams and was a 2-time Cy Young winner, so worth it. Oh, where do you even start with Bryce Harper? This dude was on magazine covers at like 16. He was a Rookie of the Year, a 5-time All-Star, and an MVP before hitting free agency. He had an 889 OPS with a 133 OPS plus his final year. Those were below his career average at that point. He ended up signing a 13-year, $330 million deal with Philadelphia, and already since then has posted a 962 OPS for a 154 OPS plus, earned another All-Star team, and another MVP, just for shits and giggles. Now, Yu Darvish was probably regarded as the biggest pitching phenom to come out of Japan at this time, and he hit the ground running in Major League Baseball. He had a 3.29 ERA entering his final year before free agency, where he posted a 3.86. This dude was a 3-time All-Star, and in 2013, he had a 2.83 ERA through 209.2 innings. He signed a 6-year, $126 million contract, and despite the fact that it didn't start off great, he threw 40 innings in 2018, and he was traded from the Cubs to the Padres in 2021, he still posted a 3.72 ERA for a 1.10 ERA plus over the life of this contract. And last on this list is Johnny Cueto, who popularized pitchers just completely turning their back to the batter. Now, Cueto, entering his walk year, had put up a career 3.27 ERA. He had a 2.48 ERA on average over 102 starts between 2011 and 2014, where he was in the top 5 of the Cy Young voting twice. And after posting a 3.44 ERA his final year, he earned a 6-year, $130 million contract. Now, over the life of this contract, Cueto's had a 3.81 ERA, but he averaged 17 starts a year. And that includes a stretch of a 4.38 ERA in 14 starts a year between 2017 and 21. All right, I can do this. I know I can. I believe in myself. Our next group are guys that had the narrative that they weren't quite what they used to be. The 2021 offseason actually featured a pair of these guys in Chris Bryant and Trevor Story, who are both trying to show that they're still that guy. Chris Bryant had been a Rookie of the Year, a 3-time All-Star, won an MVP, and had an OPS over 900 in the 2016, 17, and 19 seasons. Now, Trevor Story had been a 2-time All-Star in 2018 and 19, where he averaged a 916 OPS, 123 OPS plus, with 36 home runs a season. But it was in Coors Field. And after kind of dropping down in his numbers a little bit, still posting an 801 OPS his final year before free agency, he signed a 6-year, $140 million contract with the Red Sox. Chris Bryant had also quote-unquote struggled as of recently. He did have a rough 2020, but his OPS other than that had been hovering around in the 800s. He had an 835 OPS and a 124 OPS plus his final year. That got him a 7-year, $182 million deal with the Rockies of all teams. But he's had an 851 OPS and a 128 OPS plus in this 2022 so far. The problem has been that's been only 42 games because he was hurt. Trevor Story's also had his fair share of struggles, just in a different way. He's posted a 713 OPS for a 97 OPS plus. Now, 2015 also featured a pair of guys in this category, Jason Hayward and Jordan Zimmerman. Hayward burst onto the scene with a 849 OPS his rookie year, but it had been downhill kind of since then. Not really bad, but just okay. He still got an 8-year, $184 million deal with the Cubs that he is still playing out. This deal has been looked at as an albatross for most of it. Even though he was on the team that won the World Series in 2016, he's had a 85 OPS plus over the life of this contract. Jordan Zimmerman did not fare much better at all. Now, he had been a two-time All-Star and had a career 3.24 ERA entering the year before free agency, which he had a 3.66, which was not high. But that's the highest that it had been from 2011 through 15. And he got a 5-year, $110 million contract, which over the life of, he averaged a 5.63 ERA in 19 starts and 103 innings per year. Only pitching in 5 2/3 innings the last year of his deal. This next group, I'm not really sure what to call them. They're guys that they had a couple good seasons, they'd shown flashes, I don't know. I'll put something up on the screen so it'll be a surprise. The god of tags, Javi Baez. This dude was a two-time All-Star in 2018 and 19, where he put up some really good numbers, especially for a middle infielder, averaging about 30 home runs. Now, being a dude that had really good power for his position and also just, I think, kind of being flashy and being Javi, he had a career high in home run percentage, the second most home runs of his career, and the second most OPS plus of his career in his final year. This dude started swinging for that money. And Detroit, oh, Detroit. They gave him a 6-year, $140 million deal that has been ugly to start this baby out. He's had a 636 OPS for an 83 OPS plus. He's always been a free swinger. He doesn't walk. He strikes out a good amount, and that has come back to bite him in the ass so hard. Oh, and this only gets so much worse from here. Our next is Yoenis Cespedes. He had a lot of buzz about him when he came into the major leagues, and I mean, he followed that up with glimpses for sure. A 139 OPS plus in his rookie year, and a 136 in 2015. His walk year, he had a career on-base percentage, OPS, home run percentage, and walk percentage. An 884 OPS, 136 OPS plus, and after opting out of his contract with the Mets, he signed a 4-year, $110 million extension that imploded so amazingly beautifully. Cespedes only played a total of 127 games from 2017 through 2020 because of a bunch of different injuries, one of which was getting attacked by a wild boar while he was recovering from injury. He opted out 8 games into the 2020 season, and after that, the league was just like, we're done, dude. All right, peace out. And now we finish this even worse somehow with Chris Davis, who he had a 53 home run season, a 1.004 OPS, and his only All-Star appearance in 2013. That apparently was enough, along with his 923 OPS and 147 OPS plus in his final year, for the Orioles to sign him to a 7-year, $161 million contract, which might be one of the worst all time. He had a 196 average, a 670 OPS from 2016 through 2020, and somehow a 173 average with a 564 OPS from 2018 to 19, and he retired before this contract was over. Okay, this finally brings us to our final category, which I have called the guys that went from good to great. And the top of this list is Mr. Spider-Man himself, Garrett Cole. Seriously, that was the worst response to an interview question I have ever seen. I don't know how you fucked that up that bad. Well, despite being terrible at answering questions, Cole was pretty good at pitching. He'd been a two-time All-Star with a sub-3 ERA in 2015 and 18, a career 3.37 ERA up to this point, and followed this up with a career-high 2.5 ERA, career-high innings, FIP, WHIP, and Ks per 9. He got a 9-year, $324 million contract from the Yankees, and up until baseball finally told pitchers that they couldn't use super glue while pitching, he had been one of the best pitchers in baseball. A two-time All-Star, 3.22 ERA with a 1.27 ERA plus from 2020 through 2022. On the other end of the spectrum, though, we have Anthony Rendon, who I mentioned earlier in comparing him to Aaron Judge. That could probably not be further from the case. Anthony Rendon had a 923 OPS and a 138 OPS plus averaged over 2017 to 18. He followed this up with a 1.010 OPS and a 157 OPS plus his final year before free agency. He had a career-high home runs, average, on-base, slugging, OPS, and OPS plus en route to earning a 7-year, $245 million contract from the Angels. This has not gone very well because Anthony cannot stay on the field. He has had season-ending injuries that have limited him to 103 games, a 710 OPS, and a 96 OPS plus from 2021 to 2022. The other big contract of the 2018 offseason that went to somebody that everybody hated was Manny Machado. Despite having a terrible reputation up to this point, Manny had been really good. He had 30 home runs in 2015, 16, and 17, was a 3-time All-Star, and had an 869 OPS average between 2015 and 16. In his final year, he posted a 905 OPS for a 145 OPS plus, both which were career highs. Also had a career-high home runs, average, on-base, and slugging. This got him a 10-year, $300 million contract with the Padres, and since then, he's had an 852 OPS for a 134 OPS plus, 33 home runs per 162, and been a 2-time All-Star. He also had an altercation with Fernando Tatis Jr. where he told him to quit being a diva and that it's not all about him, which is only seeming more and more accurate as each day passes. After Machado, we have the man that Nick Castellanos wishes he could have been, and that's JD Martinez. Now, he only played a full season in 2015, but this dude averaged a slash line of 299, 357, 540 for a 898 OPS and a 144 OPS plus in 134 games a year from 2014 to 2016. When you combine that with his final year, where he posted a 1.066 OPS and a 168 OPS plus, which were both career highs, to go along with career highs in home runs, on-base percentage, slugging, ISO, and home run percentage, he got a 5-year, $110 million contract. And since getting paid, he's continued to do nothing but hit. His slash line has been a 293, 365, 528 for a 893 OPS and a 135 OPS plus from 2018 through 2022. And finally, we've got a couple of top lefties that went in back-to-back free agent years, and that's John Lester in 2014 and David Price in 2015. Now, we'll start with Lester, who, entering his final year, his lowest ERA in a season had been 3.21. He had a career 3.76 up to this point. He, in his final year, posted a career-high ERA of 2.46 to go along with career highs in innings, ERA+, FIP, WHIP, and walks per 9, and that was good enough to get him a 6-year, $155 million contract. And very similar to Lester, David Price had averaged a 3.08 ERA in 216 innings with 207 strikeouts a year from 2010 to 14, and he stepped it up a notch his final year. He had a career-high 2.45 ERA, a career-high in ERA plus, FIP, and WHIP to go out and get him a 7-year, $217 million contract. The similarities kind of end here, though, as Jon Lester had a 2.44 ERA, finished second in the Cy Young voting, and won a World Series in 2016. Over the life of the contract, he averaged a 3.64 ERA in 28 starts a year and was a 2-time All-Star. David Price, on the other hand, he averaged a 3.8 ERA and a 1.18 ERA plus from 2016 to 22. The problem has been that he's averaged about 18 starts a year. He got traded to the Dodgers when the Red Sox decided to offload payroll, and Mookie Betts was the main part of that, and David Price was thrown in more just to get the contract off of the Red Sox books. So the Dodgers ended up moving him to the bullpen, and that's where he's kind of played out for the last little bit of this contract. Almost there. So looking at each of these groups individually, what's kind of our takeaway? The guys that had the history of being injured, it can kind of be a mixed bag. I mean, sometimes guys just get unlucky and they get some weird freak injuries, and that's not really who they are. Sometimes, though, a history of injuries means that there's going to be more, so I kind of take it with a grain of salt, I guess. The career year guys, I think very rarely do you just see a guy who had not really done a whole lot and then has a monster year that last year. Has he figured something out that's going to carry with him throughout his contract? A lot of the times, I would say be very cautiously optimistic about these guys. Eric Hosmer, Patrick Corbin became two of the worst contracts in baseball. Castellanos has been bad to begin this first year, same as Semien. And I mean, Robbie Ray has been good, not great. Kevin Gossman's been the only one that's really stayed strong. After this, the guys who had made a name for themselves, I mean, if they've made a name, they've made a name. Max Scherzer has been Max Scherzer. Bryce Harper is still one of the best guys in baseball. Yu Darvish has put together a good career, same as Cueto. The guys that have fallen off, though, be very cautious when you start to see regression before a guy has even hit free agency. I mean, Jason Hayward's contract has been a bit of an albatross. Jordan Zimmerman fell off the fucking face of the earth. Trevor Story has struggled to begin, but we'll see how that plays out. Chris Bryant has kind of maintained his level of play, just been hurt a bit. And then the guys that have had the handful of good seasons, again, take it with a grain of salt. Unless a guy has really shown, like the good to greats, that they can do this and they can do it consistently, it's not a guarantee that that money's going to be worth it. Javi Baez has been terrible to begin this year. Cespedes, that's just a whole story. And Chris Davis was also one of the worst contracts ever and had one of, if not the worst, hitting seasons ever. The guys that were good to great, though, Garrett Cole has still maintained where he's at, minus the spider tack. Rendon's been hurt, but he's kind of the outlier in this group. Machado is still Machado. JD Martinez kept hitting. David Price has been still a good pitcher, just not quite worth what he was paid. And Jon Lester was still really good. And even the Cardinals traded for him last year when he's nowhere near what he used to be. So, I mean, really, when it comes to giving guys these huge contracts, look, unless they have a track record of really high success, they've done it for a while, they have made a name for themselves, they've been really good, and that final year they went to great, or they went from great to elite. If they don't have that proven, consistent track record, $100 million is a lot of fucking money. Don't give it to just anybody. Like, good players are very, very hard to come by. I mean, great players are very hard to come by. Somebody that's worth this kind of money, they jump out at you, okay? They make it very obvious that they should get this kind of money. And I think that's where Judge fits into this. This guy has been absolutely insane since he came into the league. He's worth whatever he's going to get. The only thing is going to be maybe the injury history, which he had the 2 years where he missed the time, but he was here all of last year. He's been here all of this year. And what he does when he's on the field is just insane. And there's nobody else like him. He's a giant. He hits bombs, and he's going to make whatever team ends up giving him this money a lot better. Now, as far as where he ends up going in free agency this year, obviously there's the big players, right? There's the teams that have the huge payrolls. The Yankees could still look to bring him back. The Mets might look to bring him in, maybe the Phillies, some of these teams, the Red Sox that have the huge payrolls. But I almost think maybe like the Manny Machado situation, I would not be surprised at all if there's a surprise dark horse team that comes out of nowhere. I could maybe see the Mariners, but for some reason a team like the Orioles is jumping out at me that's just getting into, or maybe they see themselves a year away from their competing window and they're willing to pay him this big money for 1 year of okay before the team gets to being actually good or great. Now, the only caveat with signing Judge to a big contract like this at this time is the fact that he's already going to be 31 entering next year. And if he gets the 9 years that he's looking for, I mean, he's going to be 40, still making over $30 million. We saw how that played out with Pujols, and I don't remember if there's been another guy offhand, but he's going to slow down by the end of that. He's not going to be worth the $30 million by the end of it. You're paying him for probably these first 4, maybe 5 years. But a guy like him, he's going to slow down. He's going to lose some bat speed, lose some power. I think he'd still probably end up as a high 20s, maybe into the 30s home runs guy. The average is going to go down, but he's willing to take his walks. I think he's not going to be worth the money that he's going to get over this contract by the end of it, but he's not just going to fall off and be terrible like some of these guys have been. But this is just my opinion, and, let me know what you think. How do you think Judge is going to do over the life of this contract? Is there any of the guys that I brought up that you have wild memories of or anything? Leave a comment, let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, however you want to support, whether that's liking the video, subscribing, I appreciate any of it, but I mean, really, I just like talking about baseball, and I think clearly you like listening to stuff about baseball because you watched this long ass video. So stick around. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different stuff that I think you're really going to enjoy. This has been the Mound Visit. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Oh God, now I need video for all of this, don't I? Oh shit, I'm just making